Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tonight we're going to go through and dive into how I make beats in Studio One. We've covered EDM, we've covered some couple subgenres of EDM and that sort of thing, but tonight we're going to go into hip hop and a bit more. I would say we're going to focus on a little more hip hop beats, like old school stuff, and maybe a little more modern stuff too, like maybe some Post Malone type beats, that sort of thing. But really, we're going to focus on some real basics and yeah, go from there. All right, so the first track we're going to get into here is just something that I've called Piano Beat. Now, before we dive in, I will say that a lot of this track came from a sample in Arcade. Right now it's on Hooked, and I think I deleted the original track that I was using for it. But this is the mixed down sample. Now, I should mention that that is not the very original. It started in all these pieces right over here. So each cut of this that you see was a piece of Arcade. So every time I would hit one of my keys, it was a different chord or note or something like that. So what I did is I reassembled it all to take form of what it is now. So we're seeing kind of the process result here, but then so over here there's a lot of like the leftover pieces that I didn't like, sort of thing. But then as we get more into the track, this is that is the more or less what I mixed down. Now, what I did just to beef it up a bit and also add some notes and that sort of thing was I made my own piano track that sounds like crap on its own. So I really wanted just to add that last chord at the end. So when you put them together, it sounds like this.
Release was semi, besides the Henny, his eyes that seem plenty. Things get skinny as of Queens was a Craig Jen.
So that vocal track is just an acapella that I used of Nas. So we won't focus on that too much. I mean, clearly the track that I made here was meant for that era of hip hop and that sort of style. So I just felt it was really fitting. And also it's really nice to have a well done vocal track and put it over top of your track by a professional rapper or vocalist and see how your track actually performs under, you know, one of those good tracks. So anyway. Now, the beat in this is extremely important to set the tone. Now, let's dive in to what I've got here. I have three main elements here. So just because it's important doesn't mean it has to be complicated, right? Now, I have about the simplest hi-hat you could do, which is on every quarter note. I mean, that's all the track needed, right? So we'll dive into other tracks later and we'll show you why other tracks may need other hi-hats. Okay, so the kick is really, really simple as well. The sample I used was BB2 Kick Dusty Bap, and that was a splice sample. And this snare is probably the main component of all this. It's got that tambourine mixed in with it. So this, again, this was just another sample. So ESM, underground snare, one shot, slapping hip hop. All from Splice, so you can search those samples and get the packs that they were from. But really, they were just hip hop samples is probably what I searched. So when you combine this piano with the drums, starts to take more shape. Now, sounds pretty empty, sounds pretty dead. So for some atmospheric sounds, I put on this like vinyl sound, right? You can get lo-fi vinyl sounds everywhere, so gives it that real organic feel. Gives that nice or old school feel. Now, I think the next thing I did was I added some arcade, like backing vocal, not vocal chops, but vocal samples and just some hits and baps and everything. So I'm using At Ease, hooked in arcade. I got the wave and verb and dirt all the way turned up, so it's really in the background, really echoey. And it's got like that pulsing effect to it, so it's not really stealing the thunder from the actual vocal track. It's meant to be hidden in the background. You can see I got the volume turned down quite a bit as well. But once we start to put these components together, we got the drums, we got the piano, we got the vinyl, we got the vocals. So things are starting to really come together. Now, it's still feeling a little thin, and that is because we don't have any bass. Now, I used this plugin. I believe it's free, actually, Ample Bass P. And it has, for being a free bass plugin, it is spectacular. So let's see how this puppy sounds. So that, again, all these components that we're hearing here individually are extremely simple, like the quarter note hi-hat, the bass, the lo-fi vinyl. That is almost, it's almost bad. It's so simple, it's almost bad. It kind of goes against what a lot of EDM producers, are taught, which is, flavor, spice, little nuances, little bit of this, little bit of that. And hey, that's not wrong. That makes sense, but we have to remember to let the track write itself a bit. That's really important. So now with the bass and everything else we got, starting to sound like a track. And it looks like I didn't really try much else, to be honest with you. Yeah, those are kind of, I'm not going to say those are my first tries on everything, but usually my tracks are filled with all this lower stuff here of me trying everything else. Now, this is when I decided to try out Nas's vocals.
Release was semi, besides the Henny, it's eyes that seen plenty. Things get skinny as of Queens was a crack Jenny. Instead of diet plans, it's crack 200 grams. I pump a G-Pack, peeping for where the D's at. It's slow, looking for Rambo, the cop who got grades back in the days, chasing niggas.
And that concludes that. I mean, that vocal track that Nas did is just absolute fire. So we'll end it there with that track. I mean, it's so basic and simple. I feel like I covered most of it. Now, the only thing that I could go over a little bit more is this break.
Be treated just like a slave now. Shootouts similar to Wild West, broad daylight.
But even then, it's just a copy of the intro. That's all it is. Like, just piano. I think I kept the bass in, something like that, but it's just a copy of the intro with the break vocal.
Shootouts similar to Wild West, broad daylight, face to face without a vest. You know the episodes, thugs, camouflage, and spectacles. Please God to save the lives that the devil sold. Still on the streets with my peeps, so deep.
So there you go. All right, so we are going to go into another old school beat that I think is a little different, but kind of the same essence. So this one here, I can't remember exactly how I started it, so I'm just going to go through. Okay, I remember. Now, all I had was this vocal.
Don't let the beat stop, I wanna see your head rocking. Beats clucking, the B-boys are body popping.
Right, so I had the vocal, and then I went into arcade, and I was checking out Bassline. That's right. And so I kind of wanted to do a bit of the same method I did last time, was to use arcade as like a sampler and get some musical influence from there and try and build a track around it. So I used Bassline this time. And I came up with this.
Hands in the sky.
Pretty simple, but over the vocal, it was sounding pretty good.
Hands in the sky, yo, we move to the floor, leave you stressing. Unhappiness at the door, keep it funky. With a 4/4 beat from your radios, TV screens, and in the streets. So don't stop now, DJ's got them.
It had some spice, it had some flavor, so wanted to keep it going. And I think in the chorus, I did a bit of a mixeroo. And I actually used that same bass as a little filler here in the chorus. So we'll go over that in a second. But those are the two elements that I started with. And the beats came in afterward.
Hands in the sky, yo, we move to the floor, leave you stressing. Unhappiness at the door, keep it funky. With a 4/4 beat from your radios, TV screens, and in the street.
I think this is a hi-hat here.
Streets. So don't stop now, DJ's got the media on lock now. Temperature's hot now. He's in the mode, there's no time to fly.
And I think I used this sample. Yeah.
Together, hands in the sky, yo, we move to the floor, leave you stressing. Unhappiness at the door, keep it funky. With a 4/4 beat from your radios, TV.
Yeah, that's right. So in this one here, it was actually something that I don't normally do. I was layering a lot of different hi-hat elements, which is not something that you normally do, but to increase intensity, sometimes you'll add different sounding hi-hats over and above what you have in order to gain a little more intensity or just a little extra dynamics. So I started with these hats, which was a loop sample. And then I added these standard eighth notes, it looks like. So in context, not too much more intense, but just a little more. And then when the chorus hits, or the drop, I have this element here, which I love, 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 love. This is 90s to a T. Perfect. Love it. So all three together. Just a little more crunch. And it looks like we have some little more vinyl crackle. And then I added a little more vocal backgroundy awesomeness. Now the final element that I added, which took me forever, was I played this guitar track. So I do play guitar. I don't know if y'all can see, got a bunch of guitars back here, but so this one was fun, but also took me forever, and it was a pain in the ass. I knew I wanted like a funk guitar, and I used Guitar Rig, it looks like. I used Strat Funky auto filter on that. So in context, we had the vocal, then we had this, then we had the beats, which I showed you. You know what, we'll just play it all because I kind of went through each element, and then it just goes on repeat after, so.
Don't let the beat stop, I wanna see your head rocking. Beats clucking, the b-boys are body popping. The bass drops, yo, it sounds like a tremor. Everybody's in the club getting the vibe together. Hands in the sky, yo, we move to the floor. Leave you stressing, unhappiness at the door, keep it funky. With a 4/4 beat from your radios, TV screens and in the streets. So don't stop now, DJ's got the media on lock now. Temperature's hot now, he's in the mode, there's no time to flop now. I'ma give my all, give it everything I got now. I'm like the colours in the rainbow, the way my white light just shines through a prism. Decipher sounds, I'm spitting on the bass line, and the waistlines intertwined with the rhythm. Feel the beat, feel the beat, feel the beat. I make you lose control. Feel the beat, feel the beat, feel the beat. I make you lose control. Feel the beat.
So I'm still not too whippy on the chorus, and it still needs a lot of work, even though this one was a pretty basic beat. Still, you know, there was no riser, there was no exhaust, there was no downlifter, uplifters, there was no extra little spices that I could use in this particular track. So it's still missing those elements, but I think the main frame is here, the main structure. And so after the chorus,
feel the beat, I make you lose control.
just do a little guitar break for there, and that leads into basically repeat. So we're moving along here. There's another track I wanted to pull up that I wrote quite a while back. This one here is really unique, and I think that's probably why it's one of my favorites. It doesn't fit into one box, really. So let's dive in and see what I got.
This is the end of side one of this record. Please now turn it over for the second side.
I can feel you in my lungs, feel you in my veins. Bloodstream on your way to make it to my brain. I try some others, but maybe just not as good as you. Going crazy cause I only feel this good with you. Maybe I'm just not as strong as I once was. One way they call the lily, I I gotta go. Cause in the end what happens you already know. Probably wonder where I've been at, I've been laying low. But in my mind I'm wondering what I'm paying for. All these other bitches on my but I can't fuck.
All right, so let's break down some of what I got here. We covered the drums a bit, so that's really important. And the song did start with this synthesizer, I believe. So now I'm using this Jupiter 8 preset Tranquility. I think I made a few adjustments. It's with the star there. But I actually didn't really like that sound, to be honest with you. But when I took it out, the track felt really empty, so I put it back in. So I think I wrote most of the song with this. So when we started the track, we had this, and then I believe I went right into writing this ARP. And a lot of the work in this ARP is actually from the synthesizer. I just absolutely fell in love with that ARP sound. And it's what makes the whole track really pop.
I can feel you in my lungs, feel you in my veins.
So if you take it out and you take out that top synthesizer,
I can feel you in my lungs, feel you in my veins. Bloodstream, only way to make it to my brain. I tried some others, but man, they just not as good as you.
it really gets empty. So the other thing I jumped into once that ARP was done is I knew I wanted to do some little vocal spices. So I used Double Rainbow and Hooked, and here's what we got. I just absolutely love those because they're pretty prominent in the track. They're not so backgroundy, but they're not also in your face. So I thought those were pretty nice to have, and they really sat in there well with the vocal track. So, and then the bass that I used was the Mini. Again, a lot of these plugins for this particular track are from Arturia, which I absolutely love. Very nice. So when we put the ARP, this bad boy together, and some vocals. That's what we come out with. Now, I think I actually layered 2 basses in this, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I did a sub layer beneath there. I thought I just didn't feel that this bass was thick enough in the mix. Could have probably EQ'd it and just boosted it, but I thought, nah, you know, I'll just sausage it out and make a thick bass. This is one of my favorite plugins of all time. This thing sounds so good. I actually used different notes for this part, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If I didn't, it was a small variation, but I think I just adjusted these top notes, but I think, this track here is called If Jupiter Had Beats. I mean, it just feels so spatial and interstellar and galactic. So I think, it's old school, it's new, it's melodic, it hits you, but it's also pretty chill. I don't know, it's one of my favorite tracks that I've ever written. So once we put it all together, this is what we get.
This is the end of side one of this record. Please now turn it over for the second side.
I can feel you in my lungs, feel you in my veins. Bloodstream, only way to make it to my brain. I tried some others, but man, I'm just not as good as you. Going crazy cause I only feel this good with you. Maybe I'm just not as strong as I once was. When we're together lately, I don't even feel the buzz. I'm addicted to this shit like it was hard drugs. Nikki, baby, I love you, but now I gotta go. Cause in the end, what happens, you already know.
That is it. So I think we're gonna end it there. Keep it pretty tight knit and quick tonight. I got a wedding to go to tomorrow, so I want to keep this one pretty short and sweet. But otherwise, that is it. I hope whoever listened, gained something from this tonight. If you want to know more, if you want to get any more details or tips or tricks, I'm pretty bad at going into every little detail. So just shoot me a message. Put a comment down below, subscribe. That'd be really helpful as well. And, we can work on it and just get better as we go. Now, if you want to listen to some of my tracks, I'm going to put my SoundCloud link down below. And, you can check out, a lot of the tracks that I put on here tonight are going to be in my SoundCloud. Along with a bunch of other random stuff, some stuff in progress, some stuff done-ish, or just haven't worked on since. So yeah, we'll go from there. Also, if you want, you can add me on Instagram and all the socials along with that. Otherwise, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good night.